Aishwarya and we are here as a part of our Jeet Ka Josh series. And today we are going to get started with what is the first lesson for grade 9 history, and a very interesting and a very important chapter, that is Nazism and the rise of Hitler. So today's class is going to be very interesting, it is going to be very informative, and of course we will complete this whole chapter in a single shot. Today is a one-shot class. Yes, so very quickly everybody, make sure that you get your friends, you subscribe to our channel, and do not forget to hit that like button. Yes, so I can see that a lot of you are here already. I can see that there is Sabhyata, I can see Sardul, Sarthak, Roshandeep, Anu, Arya. Good afternoon, good afternoon. It's 4:30 and I can see that a lot of you are excited. I hope that you all have your notebooks and pens with you. And see, in case if you don't want to write notes right now also, it's completely fine. I'm going to be sharing this with you on our Telegram channel. We have everything in this, right? So nothing to worry about. But what I would like all of you to do is to have your textbooks with you, okay? So what I'm going to also help you do is to make a note of some of the important pointers, right? Some potential questions that you may get for 1 mark, maybe 2 or 3 marks. And I'll also tell you the page numbers. I have the textbook with me as well. So I'll tell you the page numbers where you can mark and keep it as well. It will definitely come handy. Yes, and in case if you've not read this chapter before and this is the first time you're learning, don't worry. What I would recommend is a good 2 to 3 times reading of the chapter as it is, because trust me, this is very simple and very interesting, right? Very important aspect, right? So very quickly everybody, I hope my audio, my video and my screen and what I'm writing on the screen is visible. Yes, if so, give me a quick thumbs up on the chat. Yes, all right. Excited? All right, amazing. So all of you are asking me, ma'am, what about chapter 1 and 2? So see, like I said earlier, we had put out a poll on the channel, and since most of you had requested for this particular chapter, we'll get started with this one, and later on we will make those chapters as well, okay? So don't worry about it. But today, will you all promise me that you will focus on what we are learning today, right? Yes, all right everybody. Yes, amazing. A lot of you are saying it's your favorite chapter. That is awesome. All right, good evening. Okay. Right, so now I'm going to address something in the beginning itself, and I would like, so later on in the class, maybe if I don't see those messages, you can tell your other friends who join in later as well, because I know that a lot of you are more comfortable with Hindi and in me teaching in Hindi, right? But the thing is, when I'm explaining, I'm a little more comfortable teaching in English. I'm really sorry about that, right? But it's just that it's easier for me to explain it when I'm teaching in English. I am trying to improve my Hindi. So maybe in the future, I will, when I'm feeling a little more confident to teach in Hindi, I'll start, okay? But right now, I want all of you to please be okay with the fact that I'm going to do it in English. Yes? Very quickly, give me a thumbs up on the chat and we're going to get started, okay? All right, thank you so much. Yes, all right. Please ask me your questions very quickly on the chat, right? Yes, Purna, you have a doubt, I want you to ask me. If it is related to the chapter, don't worry, right? I will anyway be doing it. Okay, all right. Let's get started. Okay, brilliant. Now, of course, thank you so much for being such amazing students, right? So again, like I want you to know, in case if you have this chapter, maybe few things here and there might be different if you're in different boards. But if you have this chapter, you can stay as a part of this class. Don't worry. Okay. Yes, Math Junction, we will definitely do it. Definitely. All right, let's get started. Before, of course, I get started, here's a quick reminder for ANTHE, right? We know ANTHE is the Akash National Talent Hunt exam. It's taking place on 5th of November onwards, yes? And of course, if you know that, we know that it's open for students from 7th to 12th grade. So you wonderful 9th graders, I hope that all of you have registered. It will, I know you will tell me, ma'am, school is there, homework is there, now you're telling me give competitive exam. See, I understand. Give it a try. Forget about everything else. It's not about, this is absolutely free. Registration is absolutely free. You don't need to pay anything. Just go write the exam for the sake of it, right? Just see how you feel about it. Because you see, if you start attempting some competitive exams, it will definitely help you, right? So it's important that you give it a try, register for this. It's happening in November. Time is closing in. So do not forget to register for ANTHE, okay? All right. And yes, I can see a lot of you are saying, ma'am, today is Ankita ma'am's birthday. Yes, it is. We're coming live at 6 p.m. All of you be there for that class and please send in your love and wishes to her. Okay? All right, everybody, let's stay focused. All right? Okay. कौन सा chapter है, ma'am? This is Nazism and Rise of Hitler. This is chapter number 3. Yes? Now, this whole chapter, right, revolves around multiple things, but as you can see, it focuses on him, right? This, of course, you all know who he is, but I'm going to ask you the most obvious answer that is there. Can you tell me who he is on the chat, right? I am going to tell you, Purna, what that means in just a moment. Who are you seeing on the screen? I'm asking you the most obvious answer that is there. Yes, this right here is Hitler. Now see, Hitler is a very popular historical person, okay? Now, reasons why he's popular? Most likely you would probably know that, he was responsible for World War II, which we will learn today, okay? Then, of course, you would also probably know him because he was responsible for a lot of atrocities that were, there for the Jews around that time, way back in history, right? So, you may know him about that. Or some people, if they don't know anything about history, right, they're like, oh, he has a very funny mustache. So, yeah, this guy with a funny mustache is Hitler, right? But if you see, what we are going to do today revolves around the ideologies of what was Hitler's. So, a lot of you are asking me, ma'am, what is Nazism? I'm just going to go back to that. See, Nazism that is there, this particular topic, Nazism, it actually is an ideology, right? I would like to say this. It is an ideology or a system that they wanted to implement for a better world, right? But was it really better? Was it for the betterment or did it actually cause more harm than not? Is what we are going to learn today. So what is Nazism? You can simply understand that it was ideology to make world a better place, right? Yes. So now, of course, a lot of you in the beginning of the text, like if you start in the beginning of your textbook, right, if you go through it, it tells you a small story of Helmut. And I saw that a lot of you were discussing about Helmut as well, right? So it starts off with a simple story of who is Helmut. So as you can see, he was listening to a discussion by his parents. His father and mother were talking. And of course, his father being a physician, he was having a very serious conversation. And he says that, you know what, I think just like what the, Allied powers did or what we did to the Jews is what's going to happen to us by the Allied powers, right? And next day, his father was killed, right? And this, of course, really put him in a lot of shock. He was traumatized because one day he's hearing his father say this, next day his father is dead, right? So this put him in a lot of shock. And he was so worried that now his mother might poison him, right? And he was very afraid and scared to eat as well. So what is it that happened that really traumatized a young child? He's so young, but he was extremely traumatized, right? So this is what we will learn about. Now the reason behind all of this is again the ideology that I told you, Nazism, what it had done in Germany especially to the people, how it propagated into war is what we will learn. Okay, so broadly, if you see, one thing you need to remember, all right, because if you see, you keep learning about, democracy and a democratic government, and that's something you keep learning about, right? But here we're going to learn about a different kind of it, which is called as a dictatorial government, where you have an entity or you have somebody as a dictator, right? So who is a dictator? Or a dictatorship is a form of government where one person or a small group of people have absolute power, right? So this is important. I'm saying it's absolute. That means that nobody can change it, okay? What this person, this entity says is full and final. And there is no limit, right? So if this person decides anything, right or wrong, there's no limit. Nobody can stop him, right? So this kind of dictatorship government was something we observed in Germany during the rule of Hitler, right? Where he was the dictator, he was the full and final power. So this is something you need to remember. And quickly I'm going to tell you we have 8 main topics that we will learn today, okay? So we have events of World War I, which sets pretext into why Hitler came into power. See, all these 3 things that you see on screen. Your events of World War I, birth of the Weimar Republic, and economic crisis in Germany and political radicalization is what sets context to why Hitler rose into power. And of course, we learn about how, with all that power, it also made him cause some blunders and it led to the fall of it. But during his reign, you see about the spread of Nazism, the Nazi worldview, role of youth and women during that time. We learned about how there was an anti-Semitic ideology which was being spread. And last but not the least, and a very painful thing that we might be learning about today is the Holocaust. Okay? So yes, everybody, are we clear so far? Are we good to go? Yes, all right. All right, very good, very good. Okay. How long will we take to finish this chapter? So I will try my best to wind it up in 1 hour, okay? Because I also understand sometimes you're like, ma'am, history is so much to learn and everything. But this is very interesting, so I'll try to wind it up by 5:30. I just need 1 hour of your time. I may take 10 minutes extra. So please, don't mind that, okay? Yes, all right. Some of you are asking me, ma'am, where is Hitler born? Hitler was not born in England. Okay, we'll learn about it. Don't worry. Sit back, relax, have your textbook with you, make a note of important pointers. It's going to be good. Okay, Pooja? All right. Yes, I've taken your name as well. So let's get started with the first part. Like I told you, this sets pretext to what really happened, right? So you need to know a little bit about World War I, okay? You don't need to know much, you just need to know a little bit, like some context setting, right? So World War I was the first World War that happened, right? Which means it was amongst different countries. And it happened for the first time at such a large scale. Which is why most often we also call it as the Great War, right? We call it as the Great War. Now this war lasted between 1914 to 1918. Make a note of this because sometimes they will ask you this. When did the World War end? Okay. So if they ask you when did World War end, you have to write 1918. Do not forget that. Now between who did World War I happen? It happened between 2 groups. Okay. 2 friend circles you can say. It happened between Allied powers and Central powers. Now who are Allied powers? Who are Central powers? How will I know? I will tell you. Allied powers are those, okay, which includes Britain, and write this down as well. It includes your Britain, France and Russia. They are your allied powers, okay? While your central powers that are there include your Austria, Hungary, Germany and Italy. You can take a screenshot of this or else I will be sharing it with you on Telegram also, don't worry. Now what happened is that there was war that was there between these 2. And if you notice, right, you see here that in this case, so far there's no US, okay? US enters the war much later, around 1917. Towards the end of the war is when they enter. But when US enters into the war, they are with your allied powers, okay? They will go with Britain, France and Russia. And by November, okay, make a note of this as well, when the war is ending. November 1918, they sign an armistice and war is over around that time. November is a very important date. You will understand later why I was stressing on this term, November. Okay. So now what happened? War is over. And wars are very expensive. No, they have to spend so much money, so much of, your produce, everything goes to the soldiers. It's very expensive, right, for countries. Now, when you have lost the war, you are actually at loss, right? And here, of course, if you look at Austria, Hungary, Germany and Italy, they all had their own sufferings. But we need to focus on what happened in Germany. Yes? So what happened in Germany was, so far up until World War I, it was being ruled by an emperor, or monarchy was there, right? Where you have kings and emperors and everybody. So it was ruled by Kaiser Wilhelm II, okay? But after this World War was done, they were like, no, let's abolish the emperor, and they were abdicated. Very fancy word. So if you want to know what is abdicated is nothing but he was forced to resign, okay? They were like, you have to resign now, step down from your post. So after defeat in 1918, the emperor was abdicated from the throne. And what they felt, a national assembly came together and they felt that, instead of having monarchy, let's have a republic, or let's, get a democracy or a democratic government into it. Yes? So before I go ahead, for everybody everybody out there, here's a quick question. Yes, can you tell me, against which of these countries did Germany fight during World War I? Okay, Russia, England and France. See, another fancy name I've just given, England. Very quickly in the chat. What is the answer? Who were together, or who did Germany, I feel like I gave the answer away a little. Who was responsible for, who did Germany fight in World War I? Very good, very good. Yes, all of these. Yes, wonderful, wonderful. I can see the answers coming in. Brilliant, brilliant. So they fought all of this, right? So we know that they were all the allied powers that were there. Now, like I told you, they have lost monarchy. They decided that we need to have a republic, which is why the birth of Weimar Republic came into the picture. So as a result of World War I, we are having this right now. Very important to remember. So how did this Weimar Republic come into the picture? So once the German emperor's abdication or resignation was done, we saw that there was political parties which came and they established a democracy, right? So we had a National Assembly. Now remember this. They met where? The National Assembly met where to decide the Weimar Republic? In Weimar, right? And they established a democratic constitution which had a federal structure. Simply put, they decided that, see, monarchy is not working for us, okay? It's not working for you, Germany. So I think that you guys should maybe have a kind of different kind of constitution that will help you, right? And democracy at that point was still, something which, people were inclined to, and they were, taking it up, thinking that that kind of government works, right? So what happened is that in Weimar Republic, what they did is they decided to set up a German parliament or a Reichstag, right? So it's pronounced as Reichstag, okay? This is very, very important. Make a note of it. You will get for 1 mark. What is the German parliament also known as, or what is the parliament's name in the Weimar Republic? Okay, make a note of this. This is extremely important for all of you. Yes? So are we clear so far? We have Weimar Republic, we had a democracy which was established at Weimar. They set up a German parliament. And what did they do? They decided that in this parliament, we will elect some deputies, okay? We will have some authorities elected, and they will be elected by adult franchise. Or simply put, everybody, all men, all women can vote, okay? Now, of course, this seems very nice. Like, yes, okay, monarchy was there, things were crippling, but now this seems better. But as a matter of fact, it was not really that beneficial. Because at that point, the Germans showed a lot of resistance, okay? They were like, no, we don't want this. There was a lot of resistance from the German citizens, right? So there was a lot of resentment. Although this seems right, there is still resentment. They're like, no. And why? Why were they resisting something like this, which seemed beneficial for them, but they were still resisting? Because it was not really well received by the own people, because the republic, the assembly or the group of people who assembled, they decided that Germany's defeat, right? They held them responsible for, the defeat in World War I. And very, very important one. Please make a note of this. The Treaty of Versailles. See, it's called Versailles. That's how you pronounce it. But if you want to say Versailles also, it's okay. So Versailles is how you pronounce it. All right. So your Treaty of Versailles. And this had some humiliating consequences. Yes? All right. Okay. So I can see some questions coming in. And I think I missed out on some because I was going in a flow. All right. Ma'am, what is genocidal war? So, is it okay, Fatima, if I answer your question when I do this part? When I do World War II, if I tell you what is genocidal war, it will make more sense for you. Okay? So, please wait for some more time. All right? Okay. Now, I can also see some questions coming in on what is federal structure. Thank you, Priya, for helping your friends out there on what is federal. So, basically, when you have executive, legislature, and you have judiciary power, when all of those things come into the picture, that is what we mean by it. Yes? All right. So, Foodie, again, Priya has helped us out with this. You can just check that out. Priya, you can send it once again. Well written. Okay? Well written. Give a quick shout out to Priya on the chat as well. So you can always keep helping each other on the chat also. Yes? What are allied powers? Allied powers are those powers in World War I, right? So if I go back to that, you see that your Russia, England, your France, they they were all your allied powers that were there. They formed an alliance or a bond, right? So alliance comes from the word of binding, like they have an alliance. That means that they have a kind of bond or they have a kind of pact together. So think of them as friends. So group of friends helping each other out. So if you are fighting somebody, you will go and you say your friend is fighting with somebody else. You are supporting your friend, no? So you will go and you will help your friend out. You will be on your friend's side. It's kind of like that, okay? All right, very good, very good. So now we know that despite whatever has happened post World War I and of course whatever happened after establishing the Weimar Republic, the Treaty of Versailles had some humiliating terms, okay? And you need to remember this, very, very important, right? What was the impact, right? What was the impact of this Treaty of Versailles? So here if you see, as a result, now Treaty of Versailles was something that Germany signed, okay, with the Allied powers. Now there were multiple treaties which were being signed, okay, that maybe, Italy is signing somewhere and, there were multiple treaties. But we need to focus on this particular treaty. What happened? Germany lost all of its overseas colonies. That means that it had seized some colonies outside, again, for which you will have a lot of benefits, right? Because as a country, if you want to expand and you want to become, you want to improve your power and positioning, you want to expand, and they did, or they tried to, but they lost it, right? They lost 1/10 of a population as its result. Yes? And apart from that, they lost 13% of its territories. Most importantly, they lost 75% of iron and coal. They lost it to France, Poland, Denmark and Lithuania, right? So in this case, if you see, they are losing out on resources, right? They were losing out on resources. The military, there was demilitarization. That means the army's powers were also stripped down. And more than that, they had to pay 6 billion pounds. Okay, remember this, very important. Sometimes they'll ask, how much money did they have to pay as a result or because of the war guilt cause? How much money? 6 billion pounds, right? And apart from that, they owned Rhineland, okay? Rhineland is again very important. It will come later on in the chapter as well, right? Rhineland is a place which was rich in natural resources, and Allied armies occupied Rhineland as well. So as you can see, Germany is crippled at this point because of this treaty, right? Which is why it is said to have humiliating. They felt humiliated as a result of the Treaty of Versailles. So very quickly, everybody, you can take a screenshot of this. Yes? All right, have you taken a screenshot? Yes? Give me a quick thumbs up. Yes, very good, very good. Ruhr was also occupied. Very good. Yes, all right. And like you said, I can see some of you telling me, ma'am, this will come for 3 marks. Yes, this whole thing on what are the impacts will come for 3 marks. They can also ask you 1-mark questions. And this was signed, I think, around 1919 post the war, right? So 1918 war is over. 1919, I think around July, they signed this. Yes? All right. Okay. Yes. All right, everyone. All right. Okay. Now, of course, what happened was, as a result, right? We see that they had to accept it. Now, the Weimar Republic had to accept this treaty. They had no other go. And socialists, Catholics, Democrats who were there, right? They all thought that this was the way to go. And they supported the Republic. And if you see, conservatives were not very happy. Conservatives are people who are not very happy about all this way the changes were happening. And as a result, these 3 were referred to as November criminals. So you might be getting a 1-mark question again on this. Who are your November criminals? Yes? So your socialists, Catholics and Democrats who supported the Weimar Republic were called as November criminals. You can make a note of this as well. Now, as a result, there were changes in the society, right? So your treaty is, you're implementing your treaty, and of course now a republic has been stated. But as a result, within the society as well, if you see, right, you see that there are some effects that were there. So in this case, if you see, we saw that soldiers were placed. So soldiers had a higher hierarchy when compared to civilians or people who resided there. And what they did is they glorified so the sufferings of the soldiers during the war and how they survived in trenches. Trenches are, the places where they'll be hiding, and it'll be very small, and it's a lot of struggle, right, to survive and keep yourself alive during a war. The trench life was glorified by the media. They said that, wow, that's like some next level thing. But only soldiers know what they go through, right? And they were put a class apart. Now, apart from that, what politicians also believed was there was need for men to be more aggressive and masculine. So there's a lot of talk around how signing this treaty and everything was an act of cowardice, right? So that's a very coward kind of step. Like, it's a very, oh, you're scared and that's why you didn't do anything about it. Kind of like that one, thing was there. Which is why what they were now propagating was they were asking them to be more aggressive. Like, no, you need to be more masculine. You need to be more aggressive. You need to be, standing up, right? Now, aggressiveness is a very, what do you say? It's not a very positive thing that I would say, right? It's one thing to be stern. When you're being aggressive, you can also be irrational at times. So here at this point, they're also saying aggressiveness is necessary, right? Now here they're saying that people support. Now like I told you, people are not liking the Weimar Republic. They are feeling more and more that this is not happening. This is not working out for us. This is not the kind of government we want. Which is why they were leaning away from it and leaning more towards having dictatorship. They thought that is going to help them, right? And in such cases, democracy was not surviving. See, democracy will survive when your people are also cooperating. Now your people are also not cooperating, then what is going to happen? And apart from that, they were spreading aggressive war propaganda. Propaganda is another word you will keep seeing. So propaganda is almost like a cause, right? So if you see if somebody is spreading a propaganda or a cause that is going to be there, then that's what we call it as it. Very simple. So we see that more and more people were spreading aggressive war propaganda, and they were telling that to the public as well. So how is a government going to survive when your public is not really supporting, right? So that's exactly what's happening. Yes, all right. I know they signed the treaty to avoid further war. But what is happening is the treaty made the people feel very humiliated. They're like, oh, you are stripping me of everything. Then how is this treaty helpful? So people were having conflict in that manner, right? I know. All right, okay. Yes, very good. Aggression using forces. Why did they sign that treaty? See, it was a point after which they were losing, right? So the best way out of it was to make sure that you sign an armistice. And of course, see, when you have lost the war, there are, as you know, on a broader front, when you see, you have to sign it, because now which we will learn later on as well, the economy of the country was also not great because a lot of money has been spent on war also, which is why now they had no choice, right? Yes, all right. Yes, of course, dynamic gamings. Yes, yes. Okay. Very good. In June 1919, it was signed. Yes, all right. What is the meaning of aggressiveness? Again, like I told you, to be more violent, right? So violent is not the right word I would use, but you can think about it. If say you take something from me, okay, I'm like, I can say, why did you take it from me? Or else I'm like, why did you take it? What is the reason behind it? And I'm, getting riled up. So that's simply what is aggressiveness, okay? All right, okay. Yes, all right. Angry mannerisms. Very, very good. So again, I can see some of you are asking me, ma'am, what is propaganda? Propaganda is a cause or maybe a way in which you influence people, right? You are influencing them to be a certain way. That is what we can simply define as propaganda. All right, very good. So now, of course, if you see with all of this, right? People are not liking the way the republic is working and all of that going on. We saw that there was political radicalization. Okay, very, very important word. I'm writing this down. Okay, so we saw that there was political radicalization. Oops, you'll not be able to see the remaining. I've hidden it there. I'm just going to write it here. So what do we mean by radicalization? Radical means extreme. Alright, so now what's happening is within the country, now you have political extremities, right? People are not agreeing to a kind of political reform. If there is, they are not liking it, they are revolting against it, or there are maybe causes which are arising. And one such kind of uprising that was there was a replacement, right? Was your Soviet-style government or your Spartacist League. Yes? So, Weimar Republic was formed as a replacement of monarchy. But people did not like this. Yes? So, what did they want? They wanted a different style of government, and around that time they wanted Soviet style of governance, right? And that is where your revolutionary uprising or your Spartacus leagues come into the picture in 1980. Make a note of this as well. This was as a result of political radicalization. Okay? Alright. Okay. So now, of course, what happened? Or who are these Spartacus leagues that have suddenly popped up, right? So like I told you, they wanted more a Soviet-style governance. Yes? So these mainly included your communists, right? And they wanted working class people. Okay, so they said that, see, if working class rules, it will be so much more better. So they wanted to implement working class rule. So what they did, they had Soviet councils, they had workers and sailors, they were all over in different parts of Germany. But what happened was, when this uprising started to come, the Republic noticed this. They were like, I can see the Spartacus League. They're slowly, having an uprising coming. So they decided to subdue them, right? So they have decided to subdue them. And how did they do that? They used the German army. They had German war veterans who formed the Free Corps, right? And they decided to defeat them. Now this, of course, when they subdued, it causes even more radicalization, right? So I'm trying to bring something, but what's happening is, now when we are resisting, people are like, okay, fine. And they're, it's becoming, the opinions are even getting further apart. There's nowhere where there is common ground, right? So this Spartacus League that is there later on became your Communist Party. And as a result, this caused them to be enemies. Now this right here is a very important factor, right? Because they were not able to come together. At no point were they agreeing upon anything. And this was one of the reasons why Hitler rose to power. So as you can see, whatever reforms are coming in, they're not being very stable. And as a result, we saw that Hitler was rising into power, and we'll learn more about it, okay? So now at this point, the Republic is not strong. The governing body is not strong, which is what was making it more susceptible, more vulnerable to dictatorship. Yes? All right. Okay. Back during the rule of Weimar Republic, what is the name? It was called, we use the term Weimar Republic. Yes? All right. Free Corps included your war veterans, right? People who are already in the war, and all of them, they were your war veterans. Okay? Are we clear? Now, for those of you, I can see again, please help your friends out who are asking me to explain in Hindi, right? So again, I'm more comfortable in English. I am trying to be more comfortable in Hindi as well. So in the near future, yes, we will do it. But right now, I'll be teaching in English. Yes? All right. So please tell your friends, please make sure that it's completely okay, right? Yes, all right. Okay, this is for class 9th, for those of you who are asking me. Now, here again is a question that you may get in your exams, okay? What are the problems with Weimar Republic, or what are the defects of Weimar Republic? So why was it an unstable, and why was it vulnerable to dictatorship? So as you can see, one main reason is, I told you, anybody and everybody can vote, right? So all men and women can vote. Now as a result, the parliament that was getting formed, right, or your Riksdag that is there, you see that there is no majority. If I want to go there, and if my friends vote for me, I'll also be there, right? And imagine if there is no unity that is happening, right? So what is happening? There's a lack of unity that was there. This made achieving a majority by any one party impossible, because they were not unifying to contribute or take part or believe in a certain party, right? So this was becoming very impossible. And this also made it difficult to rule, right? You are not able to collate. You are not able to bring your people together. You are not able to get, maybe people to unify in one party. They're voting for randomly here and there. This could have an effect. Now, apart from that, Article 48 of the Constitution, right? So in their Constitution, what they said was, President has the authority, okay, to rule by decree in the state of emergency by bypassing the elected parliament that is there. So at any point if the president feels that, okay, you know what, this is a state of emergency. So because there was a lot of uprising that was going on, right? They could bypass it and he could issue. Now this could not be very great as well. So what happened was people were not liking it and it was becoming more and more vulnerable. Now, as if all this political, radicalization was not enough, we also saw that economic crisis in Germany was coming down, right? So as a result, we know that Germany was on the losing side of World War I. Now they had to sign the Treaty of Versailles. Apart from that, they also had to pay, or they had to, pay reparations, right? So what do I mean by reparation? These are nothing but, if I have to simply put, what you owe me, right? So if you were the one who was involved in a fight with me, right? Or let's say I'm having a fight with my friend, okay? A and B, I'm having a fight at this point, right? And B wins the fight. Now A owes B because at the end of it, I won it, right? Or B won it, yes? So it's almost like the reparations paid by Germany was the money that Germany owed to the Allied powers, right? So that was also something which the Treaty of Versailles had, and it was taking a toll on the people because all the money that is there is now going, it's being given out to the Allied powers. So they had to pay their reparations in gold. Make a note of this. And when they were giving it in gold, all their gold is now going. All of it I have to give it, right? And this made it difficult eventually, right? So eventually what was happening? They were not able to pay, right? So they were not able to pay their money, okay? All right. So this was around 1923, okay? So all this is happening around 1922, 23. Now in 23, what happened was that they were like, no, I am not going to pay the reparation. They just decided that they will not pay. Now when they decided to do this, this triggered the French to take up Ruhr, okay? And we see that Ruhr again is a very key place in your Germany, wherein all their key industries, and they took over coal. So see, wherever you can maybe export and make money, they're taking over these lands, which means that there is no way to build their economy. They're not able to build their country. To build anything, you need money, right? And they're not able to make money at this point. So what happened? People are like, you know what? This is not happening. If we are not going to do this, we will print our own money, okay? So what they did, they started to print currency. Paper currency, they printed it in large numbers. So they thought that if I print multiple papers, right, or if I build a lot of currency, then what will happen? I will be able to, I'll be able to sort of make money. I'll be able to buy what I want. But what they didn't realize, if they do this, it will affect their value, right? So if you see here, they were printing large amount of money, okay, paper currency that was there. Now, simple example I'll give you is, you know what is the value of 1 rupee and you know the value of 100 rupees, right? Now, you know if you give 100 rupees, you will be able to buy 10 chips packets, yes? If you give 1 rupee, you will be able to buy 1 melody. You know that much. Now, when they did this, what they didn't realize was they were depreciating the value. They were bringing down the value, which means that what eventually happened to them, for 100 rupees, okay, I'm giving you an Indian currency analogy so that it gets easy. They were able to buy only 1 melody. Only one. So imagine 100 rupees for 1 melody. That is what you mean by your value is depreciating or your value comes down. So what happened eventually is there's a point at which they're taking, truckloads of paper currency, right, or printed currency. And they're not even able to buy a proper loaf of bread. Now this kind of condition where the value has increased considerably is what we call as hyperinflation. Very, very important. Sometimes they'll ask you what is hyperinflation, okay? All right, are we clear? Are we clear? Yes? So far, so good. Yes, everyone? So currency is in marks, right? So currency will be in marks. Yes? Reparation. Somebody was asking me, ma'am, what is reparation? Reparation is making up for wrongdoings, right? So like I told you, you owe me. You're making up for what you did. Yes? Decrease in value. Very good, very good. Yes, it is Ankita ma'am's birthday. Guys, come at 6 o'clock and wish her, okay? Don't forget. All right. How is increase in current notes associated with depreciating value in US dollars? See, you do a comparison. Like I gave you an analogy with Indian money, right? That 1 rupee, 100 rupees and all of that. So basically at that point, US dollars, and even now, right, if you're trading or if you want to export something, so basically what will happen is if you're sending into US or something, you will be able to get that much in returns, right? Okay, these many US dollars will be maybe how much I will get. But what happened was, if I'm taking this much amount of my money thinking that I'll get double in US dollars, but because the value is not there, it's relatively less, right? Yes, Ruhr is a place, okay? November criminals include your socialists, your Democrats, and it includes your Catholics. They are your November criminals, right? Reparations are compensations. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Okay? We have a lot more, so I'm going to quickly go ahead. Now see, hyperinflation has happened. People are not able to, what do you say? People are not able to afford things. And at this point, everything is crumbling, right? Things are crumbling around them. They are, they really need the work. So what happened was at this point, Germany needed help to get over the economic crisis. See, US is a very diplomatic, very diplomatic here. US was like, okay, I'll help you out. And they devised the Dave's plan, okay? The Dave's plan was when the US was loaning out money to Germany so that they would come out of this crisis, all right? And it would make it easier to pay back those reparations, right? Now there are two key parts. One is making sure that they rework the terms of reparation, so they'll go back and check, okay, if these are the conditions, then, maybe let's do this and this. And providing short-term loans to rebuild Germany's industrial capacity. So they thought that, okay, if I rebuild their capacity, then they will be able to manufacture things. And then if they, maybe trade or they export or whatever they do, they'll be able to get money, no? And whatever money they get, they will then give it to US. So this was the plan. But what happened and what was unprecedented, right, was that in 1929, okay, it was all going well around 1924 to 29, right? So between 1924 to 1929 or 28, I would say, that's a better date, everything was going fine. But there was a crash, or within the Wall Street Exchange, there was a crash, and this led to the Great Depression, right? So there was an economic depression, which means in US, the stock market crashed. The trading center that is there, right? That crashed. Now what happened was, there was a considerable decrease in what was going on, right? So if you see here, we saw that as a result of the depression, US was not able to give money, okay? They were not able to provide money to Germany. They had to, keep it to themselves because it crashed by half almost. And as a result, workers started losing their job, unemployment touched 6 million, sections of society were filled with proletarianization, right, wherein the working class was getting impoverished, right? That means that basically working class that's there is getting diminished, yes? Now as a result, bigger businesses were crippling, people were filled with a sense of mental despair. So apart from politics or the democracy being unstable, your economic conditions were also making it susceptible for dictatorship, yes? So here's a quick textbook question that you will get, right? And it's there in your textbook. That is, describe the problems which were faced by the Weimar Republic. So here, as you can see, there are two parts in which you can write this answer. So if this comes for 2 marks or if it comes for 4 marks also, you can write it. I told you 2 aspects, no? One is failure in politics, right? Second is economic condition, right? And you can elaborate it in greater detail. So what you'll have to mention is about how people suffered during this, and of course how monarchy was replaced, right? And how the treaty and armistice was signed, and how the government supported, or people who supported the government were known as November criminals, and republic did not get to a good start. Provided you can also write about the economic difficulties that we just discussed. So you can quickly take a screenshot, everyone. Yes, all right. Okay, and give me a quick thumbs up as well. Once you are done, you can take a quick, give me a quick thumbs up on the chat. All right, everybody, all right. Okay, So now, of course, I can see some of you are asking me, ma'am, can you please explain Dave's plan? I'm going to quickly take you through that. See, Dave's plan was something wherein, I'm going to put it to you in simple words, okay? What they wanted was that, first and foremost, they make sure that how much ever money Germany had to pay, no? They make sure that they revisit how much they do it. Secondly, they will lend some amount to them. Okay, so I'm going to imagine if, like, let's assume my friend needs 100 rupees, right? He urgently needs 100 rupees, so I will give him 100 rupees and he'll pay me back later. Just that in the case of US, they made a plan around how much money they will lend, on what dates you need to return it back and all of that. So that is what is Dave's plan, okay? Yes, Nancy, yes, all right. Thank you, Bhumika, for helping me out with it. Thank you so much. You're all being such wonderful students. I cannot tell you how. It's my first history class with all of you. And let me tell you, I'm actually feeling very excited. And of course, I like the fact that you have a lot of enthusiasm also, right? It would not be possible if your enthusiasm was not there, right? So I'm very happy for all of you and for being such great students. Yes? Now, we know all of this from World War, right? World War I, the Weimar Republic, economic crisis, all made it susceptible for a dictatorship government. And that is where your Hitler comes into the picture. Now, Hitler, like I told you, has a very prominent personality, okay? Now, some of you are like, ma'am, Hitler is born in England. No. Where is Hitler born? Hitler was born in 1889 in Austria. And his youth that was there, or he was born into poverty. So he was born in conditions where the economic conditions were not very right, okay? And as soon as World War I broke out, he joined the army, he acted as a messenger in the front, he got promoted to being a corporal and he earned a lot of medals also. So he was very active, right? And he was very patriotic also, I would say, right? Which is why when Germany suffered the defeat in World War I, right? He saw that it really affected him and he wanted to restore Germany to its former glory, right? So if him being a patriotic person and his love for Germany is what made him who he is. Yes? Now, of course, another thing is there was slight bitterness towards the condition. It's not bitterness towards the country, it's bitterness towards the sort of situation his country was in, right? And see, that also triggers a lot of, I would say, aggression, anger within. And if you see his bitterness, right, or his not so happy, or I would say not so positive attitude towards a lot of things, revolved around two events, okay? One is Germany's loss. And secondly, he was not very happy about signing the Treaty of Versailles. Which is why what he did was in 1919, so when the World War I was over, he joined the German Workers' Party, alright? And he was a very active member there. And eventually he renamed it to the National Socialist German Worker Party, which is what became the Nazi Party. So if you see, he renamed it to National Social German Worker Party that became the Nazi Party, right? And under Hitler's leadership was what made the Nazi Party emerge as the largest party in Germany. See, so far I was telling you they were not even able to unify. So when they were voting in the parliament and everything, they were not able to come to terms, right? They were not able to come together on one thing. But here you have Hitler building the largest party in Germany, the Nazi Party. So what happened was, after he joined the Workers' Party, what he decided was, okay, 1923, right? He decided to seize control of Bavaria. So he wanted to take up an initiative, he seized control. But he failed in his attempt, right? And as a result, he was tried and tested for treason, which means betrayal, right? You have committed treason. That means that you have committed betrayal. But what happened was, see, it is in 23, right? And very soon you know that the Great Depression is going to happen. So what happened? Nazism post the Great Depression. People are in panic, right? People are scared. People are anxious. At this point, Nazism became a mass movement, right? So it's almost like when things are crumbling, Nazism got, Nazism was giving people hope that things will get better, which is why it became a mass movement during that time. And see, just within 1932. So if you look at the previous election that happened, only roughly 2.7% or something of people in the parliament were Nazi party. But in 1932, post the Great Depression, we saw that it became the largest party in German parliament with 37% of votes. So here what happened was your Nazi party was building power, right? And you should understand that the economic conditions, the political conditions were laying base for their growth. Yes? And if you see, Hitler was projected as a savior. So all your problems are here. They were projecting Hitler as a savior who's going to bring you out of those problems. That is how they were preaching, right? And in January 30, 1933, Hitler was appointed as the Chancellor. Okay, it's one of the highest positions that are there. He was appointed as the Chancellor by President. Oops, sorry about that. Was appointed as the Chancellor by President Hindenburg. Yes, we are clear so far. Yes, it was the economic depression. Very good. All right. What is the Wall Street Exchange? Like I told you, the Wall Street Exchange was what happened. No, we had the great Wall Street Exchange that happened where on one day they sold a lot of shares, right? Yes. Now, why is it that if you see, I wanted to emphasize on this. If you look at this part, no, if you see here, Hitler was projected as a savior. Now, savior is a very strong term to use. But why were people believing that he could be a savior? Because as a person, right, he was a very powerful speaker. And he promised to build a strong nation, restore dignity in the country. And he understood that if you want to make an impact on people, you need to have mass spectacles and rituals. Which is why he would hold massive rallies, public meetings to instill trust in people, right? And if you see, he had the red banners with the swastika is how we recognize the Nazi party, the Nazi salute, the characteristic Nazi salute, and a ritualized round of applause. So these are all things that, they're small things, which you might not think is not really creating an impact. But subconsciously, this is setting into the people that he is a very powerful leader and he might be helping us. So once Hitler was appointed as Chancellor, the position of power for the Nazis was set, right? And of course, it's important that they wanted to increase. They aimed to increase their share of votes. So they wanted to strengthen their position in the parliament. 37% is good, but they wanted to make it more. So what did they do? They brought over other parties to their side and they make sure that they would help them rule unopposed, unhindered. So they said, okay, y'all come, be with us. We'll, be together and we will be, taking care of it. But what happened was a very, very interesting thing that is there. And I want you to make a note of this part, okay? So we see that there was a fire at Reichstag, right? And as a result, there was a fire decree which was issued on 28th of Feb. And as a result of this affected the rights of Germans. So freedom to speech, freedom to express, all of it was curtailed. Curtail means that now there is no more freedom, right? Fire decree was initiated. And as a result, all the communists, which earlier they said, hey, you come to our party, you rule with us. All the communists were outlawed. And they were sent separately out to concentration camps, right? So they were all outlawed. And here if you see, this Nazi suppressed. So starting with this, they started suppressing their opposition. So these are small steps. So what started out to the people as maybe Hitler being a savior is now slowly moving towards dictatorship, which is said to be absolute power, where nobody can stop him, right? And he passed the Enabling Act in 1933. Yes, where the state would have complete control. Make a note of this. What does the Enabling Act mean? Whoops. Right. It means that now your state has complete control over economy, media, army, judiciary. This is the final power, right? And of course, we see that there were special surveillances, security forces, all of them which were created to monitor. So now everything that people are doing is getting monitored, right? So they set up Gestapo, which is secret state police, SS squad, which was the protection squad, criminal police, security services, which were all added additionally. Make a note of Gestapo. They may ask you what is Gestapo. They may ask you what is the secret state police known as. And they would wander around in their green uniforms, patrolling the roads and making sure that whatever is happening is under their control, under the state's control. Yes? So I do understand that I kept teaching for quite some time. Any more doubts, anyone? All right, okay. Yes, Ayushi, yes, hello. All right, let's all focus. See, US was amongst that's what I said. They joined in much later. But US as a country, they wanted to help out also, because at the end of the day, reparations were also being paid, right? So they decided that, okay, let me help out. And again, it would be to their benefit only. They also wanted to benefit out of it. No, so that's why they made the Dave's plan. All right, everyone, very quickly. Yes? So before we get started, I hope that all of you have hit that like button. You've subscribed to our channel, because this is going to be the place where you will get everything. Yes? All right, very quickly mark your attendance by hitting that like button. Yes? All right, very good, very good. Okay. So now that we have learnt about this, now we know that this has started, right? Which of course meant the rise of Nazism, the ideologies, right? They started to rise. Now, Nazism is very synchronous with ideologies of Hitler also, okay? So if you see, the first thing he did is, as soon as President Hindenburg of Germany died, Hitler succeeded as president and commander-in-chief of the armed forces. And to restore Germany's lost militant glory, I told you, he does not like treaty. He was against Treaty of Versailles. So he broke all clauses of Treaty of Versailles and he decided to expand to foreign countries, which led to World War II. Or his expansion of foreign policy, more accurately, led to World War II. Right? So what were his foreign policies that led to World War II? So if you see, he pulled out of the League of Nations in 1933. Right? And if you remember, Rhineland, which was given away, it was rich in resources in the beginning. If you remember when we discussed Treaty of Versailles, if you see, they had taken away Rhineland. So what did Hitler do? He reoccupied Rhineland. What was lost to the country is now brought back. Then he integrated Austria and Germany under the slogan, one people, one empire, one leader. See this, one leader, emphasizing on dictatorship. And apart from that, he seized Sudetenland and Czechoslovakia. Okay? So sometimes they'll ask you what are the 4 places that he seized or that he brought under as a part of his foreign policy, right? What are the 4 areas or the 4 lands? So you have your Austria, you have Sudetenland, Czechoslovakia and Rhineland. Okay? You need to write these 4. Sometimes you'll get for 2 marks or maybe sometimes even for 4 marks. What is Czechoslovakia, ma'am? Czechoslovakia is nothing but it's a place, right, in Europe. Ma'am, Enabling Act. Enabling Act is something wherein the state will now have control over the people, right? Whether it's media, whether it's speech, whether it's, movement of any kind, right? All the policies that are there, everything will be under the control of state. Freedom of people has effectively come down, okay? All right, okay. So now we know that his expansion of foreign policy was as a result of his aggression. We saw in the beginning, he was a very aggressive person, right? And he's also very patriotic, which is translated into aggression. So what he did, now he has strengthened his base, he's very powerful, he's commander-in-chief, and he wanted to rapidly consolidate his power. And he thought that the only way, okay, why did he go to war? Because he thought that the only way in which I am going to be able to achieve or get Germany out of economic crisis is by choosing war, which is what led to World War II. Okay? So what happened was in 1939, okay, this particular thing was what started World War II. Invasion into Poland. Overnight, you see that in 1939, they invaded into Poland, which started a war between France and England. Now, if you see here, you have the Tripartite Pact, okay? Tripartite Pact is nothing but a pact which is signed between countries where they all help each other out and they cannot come out of it. So if they sign it, you have to be there for each other, Very simply put, okay? So if you see Germany, Italy, and Japan, you can remember it in this way. GIG, like G.I. Joe or something like that. Actually, like G.I. Joe, right? If you see here, you can remember this to remember who are all in the tripartite pact. Your Germany, Italy, and Japan. They were all together and they signed it in 1940, right? So what happened? By signing it with Italy and Japan, it strengthened its international power. And slowly, if you see, he started to expand into Europe. By 1940, he was at the zenith of his power. Like now, he's like, I'm unstoppable. So you have your G.I. Joe, right? Which is your Germany, Japan, and Italy, right? Who are all the Axis powers, yes? So they are called the Axis powers. If they ask you who are Axis powers, remember this. Allied powers, okay? Allied powers who they are fighting into. Oops, sorry about that. Who are they fighting with? They are fighting France, Great Britain, Soviet Union, which we will learn in a bit, and the United States. Yes? So you have Allied powers, Axis powers. Yes? All right, everyone. Okay. Are we clear? Are we clear? Yes? All right. My chat is lagging a little, so let me quickly refresh. You can take a screenshot in the meanwhile. Okay, as I'm doing it, you can take a screenshot also. Yes, wonderful everybody, wonderful, okay? All right. So now of course we know that World War II started and remember the dates, okay? World War II has started between 1939 and 1945, all right? So it happened in two fronts. It happened in Europe and it happened in the Asia Pacific front, okay? Which means in this region, your Asia Pacific front where you have Japan here, you have your Pacific front as well. It happened in two regions. And this is something which is most known to people as well, which we will see in just a bit. So basically what happened, he signed the tripartite pact with the other two countries and he started his expansion as a result or because of his vision of Lebensraum, right? So he had a vision of Lebensraum where he wanted to expand the lands. So Lebensraum literally means living space. So he wanted to expand his land for the Germans so that they could go, they could have their settlements and they could live there. And what he did as a big blunder, which is considered to be the biggest blunder in history, is he went and attacked the Soviet Union in 1941, right? So that, why did he attack? Simply because he wanted to provide living and food for the Germans. But this was considered to be one of the biggest blunders, right? So when he attacked, so he invaded the Soviet Union or Russia in 1941. Remember this, when did he do this, right? So in this case, if you see, when he did this, we saw that mainly the reason why he had exploded or the long-term objectives was of course for getting land, right? Why did he do it? Because he needed land, he needed resources, no? There is no, economic conditions are still not very great. And again, he was not a very proud, he was not very accepting of the communist regime. If you saw earlier in the fire decree as well, they sidelined the communists, right? So here also he wanted to destroy the communist regime. So that's why he started expanding into Russia, wherein soon we were observing the communist regime. But when the Russian army started getting involved, the German army had no growth, right? So in this case, what happened was when they went and they attacked, you see that the Eastern Front, right? So what happened was the Eastern Front was, he rerouted his army to the Eastern Front to attack Soviet, which meant that the Western side was now left free, almost, right? I'll not say free, but it is susceptible. So if he's moving closer towards the east, towards Russia, on this side who is there? No, Britain is there, no, in the Western side. Britain it's made it susceptible for bombing, which means aerial bombing, dropping bombs through this, right? Yes. So in this case, if you see, we see that the Eastern Front was also defenseless. Although the German army is closing in towards Russia, it's not still as strong as the Russian army. So we see that they were not very powerful. And as a result, the Soviet Red Army inflicted a crushing defeat, right? And the Soviets chased. So once they won, right, there were German army members, there were soldiers who were running, okay, to reach Berlin, to reach the capital, to go far away. But Soviets chased them also, right? And they ensured that they get rid of them entirely. Now, once the war was done, right? So around 45, the war is done in April 1945. Hitler committed suicide. So he saw that it is not really working. The war has been lost, right? So there's a big, huge fight that had happened. And of course, Russia had entirely captured Poland, Eastern Europe and Berlin. And after that, in April 1945, Hitler committed suicide, knowing that there was the defeat of Germany. Him being a patriot, right? He's such a strong patriot, but his actions, right? They were not in the right. There were a lot of things that he has done which were extremely cruel, which we will learn about as well, right? So of course, if you see here, apart from all of this, no, Japan was also there in your Axis power, yes. Japan also wanted to expand, and it had already occupied the French Indochina and was planning to attack US, right? And it wanted to attack the US naval bases in the Pacific. So what happened was Japan bombed the base, the Pearl Harbor base, right? And I'm sure there would be movies in which you would have seen, there are movies on this as well, wherein you see that bombed the Pearl Harbor base. And as a result, this is what caused US to join into World War II. Up until then, they were not going to join World War II. But when Japan made this move, right, that's when they joined World War II. And it reciprocated by drawing an atomic bomb, right? It dropped an atomic bomb on Japan in Hiroshima. Yes, so I'm sure you would have all heard about the Hiroshima-Nagasaki bombings. It had deeply impacted the people. And as a matter of fact, side effects of that are still seen in people today, right? So World War II ended with all of this. So very quickly, everybody, I have a question, right, for all of you. When and among which of the following countries was the Tripartite Pact signed? Very quickly, A, B, C or D? Yes? Very quickly in the chat. All right, okay, very good, very good. Again, remember, very simple one, G.I. Joe, right? If you remember G.I. Joe, you will know which are all the countries, and then you can quickly have a look. I've already given you a clue as well, right? See, Soviet power is your Russian army, okay? Soviet, USSR, Soviet is your Russian army. Allied power will include Great Britain, it will include France, it includes all the allies, it includes a group of countries. So if I say Soviet, I am focusing only on Russia, okay? Very good, very good. Yes, so the correct answer here is option D. That is your G.I. Joe, Germany, Italy and Japan, okay? So with this, we've had a look at the 4 topics. Now very quickly, I want to check with all of you in the chat. Now we still have Nazi worldview, role of youth and women in Nazi Germany, anti-Semitic ideology and propaganda and Holocaust, right? So I want you to tell me if you want me to continue now or shall we do this in part 2? Can we do another one? We'll do part 2 of the chapter. Yes, what do you think? You can tell me and accordingly we can do it. Okay, not a problem. You want to do it now. Okay. Yes, give me a quick vote. Can we just have a YouTube poll on screen? Just have now and part 2 in the poll. I'll have a YouTube poll, okay, because then I'll know. Because see, again, I will need another half an hour maybe to complete this and we have a class at 6 o'clock also. So we'll do a poll. Yes, okay. So if I'm having a YouTube poll, you tell me in the poll. We'll do according to that, okay? Because see, this chapter is also very huge and some of you will be like, ma'am, so much. But see, so far whatever I have taught, have you understood this? I want to know that. If you've understood it, then well and good. I'm more than happy, right? And the intent is to understand what we are learning. Yes? All right. Okay, just answer in the poll, okay? Very well. I'm so happy. Quickly give me answers in the poll. The poll has started on YouTube. Please check and let me know. Yes? All right. I know Ashvika wants it to be now. See, I don't mind. It's just that I want to know only because we have Nazi worldview, role of youth and women, anti-Semitic ideology and Holocaust, right? So it's important that we have a good understanding of the concepts. And even if we break it down, I'll do it this week only. See, don't think that I'll keep it to next week. I'll do it sometime this week, that's for sure, okay? All right. Okay, I have 49 students and only 35 votes, okay? I want all of you to tell me this. Yes? Is it mandatory to fill form? I think you're asking me about Anthe. Yes, okay. Okay, ma'am, do it this week. I'll do it this week. See, if I'm doing a part 2 also, I'll not keep it for later. I'll do it sometime this week. I'll squeeze in the time and I'll do it. Don't worry about that, okay? Yes, okay. So shall I do one thing? I can see that 64% of the votes are now moving towards later. Okay, that means a part 2. Alright? So then we'll have part 2. We will discuss all these topics in part 2. We'll do a quick recall of part 1 and then we'll do it in part 2. Yes? Alright, this week only. Promise. My promise to you is that this week I will complete this chapter. Okay? I'll squeeze in the time and I will do it. Alright? Maybe I might have to, if not in the weekday, weekend, maybe we'll do it. Okay? Alright, so let's quickly summarize. I'm just going to go into the summary slides. Okay? I'll share this pre-PT with you. Don't worry. Okay? So I'm going to go into the summary. I have the whole chapter with me. I was ready, but now, since we are doing only part 1 of this, let's quickly look at it. So, we started off by learning about effects, right? We learned about effects of World War I, right? So, we know that World War I, oops, sorry, let me just go back. Okay, so we know that Germany fought World War I in between 1914 to 1918, and we know alongside the Austrian Empire against the Allies, right? Allies won, Germany and the Central Powers lost, yes? And as a result, it led to the establishment of a democratic constitution with a federal structure, which we know is the Weimar Republic. And of course, there was the abdicament of the emperor who was there. Now, many Germans held the new republic or the Weimar Republic responsible not just for defeat in war, but the disgrace that happened at the Treaty of Versailles. And supporters were criticized and they were very angry with what was happening. The conservative nationalists who were there, they called the Democrats, they called the Catholics and the Socialists as November Fools, who believed that the Weimar Republic will be of any help to the country. Yes? Now, of course, we see that this caused some political radicalization along the period of time. So, as the establishment of the German parliament happened, we also noticed that, the society was also expected to be a certain way. Men were expected to be more muscular. Soldiers were put above civilians, right? And we also saw that this led to the uprising of the Spartacist League. And again, this caused political instability, and we also know that economic instability also contributed to the rise of Hitler. Now, Hitler was, of course, born in Austria. He was initially part of the German Workers' Party. He renamed it later, which eventually became the Nazi Party. And he obtained the highest positions in the cabinet, which is the Chancellor position, in 1933. And thereby he decided to start or establish, or he wanted to get rid of the kind of democratic rule that was there. He signed the Tripartite Pact and it took him to the zenith of his power, and of course the downfall of his life, right? The downfall where he made the biggest blunder is when he invaded the Russian Soviet, right? And of course World War II started. We see that as a result, at the end of World War II, it resulted in the end of Hitler's death. And of course, US had dropped the atomic bomb on Japan, right? Yes, all right. Why did First World War occur? So, First World War occurred because there was a conflict between Serbia and Austria, right? So, we see that Serbia had killed or assassinated the Archduke of Austria. And as a result, Austria waged war, right? That's why World War I happened. Okay, all right, everybody. So with this, I'll be signing off. Do not forget to hit that subscribe button. Do not forget to like it. And very quickly, I have a homework question for all of you. I'm writing it on screen and I want to check because you know I check your answers, right? So very quickly, I want you to tell me what were the impacts of the Treaty of Versailles, right? What were the impacts of the Treaty of Versailles? This is your homework question. Let me know in the comment section below. I will be checking your answers, everybody. And of course, if you enjoyed this class, please make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Tell your friends also that you know what, as a part of Jeet Ka Josh, we have now the social science chapters coming in as well for all of you, both my wonderful 9th graders and my wonderful 10th graders, right? Yes, all right, everybody. Hoping to see you very, very soon. Come at 6 p.m. where Ankita ma'am and I will be there together. And do not forget, it's her birthday. So shower her with lots of love, lots of wishes. We will see you very, very soon. Yes? All right, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.